Hello, viewers. Today I'll be talking to you about writing skills, the concept and purpose behind these skills, and why these skills are pertinent and important for engineers. I'd like to begin the video by sharing a quotation by a famous author, Paulo Coelho. I'll read it out to you and then we'll explain it. Writing means sharing. It's part of the human condition to want to share things, thoughts, ideas, opinions. So, once we understand this quotation, we come to know that it is embedded in our genetic coding to communicate, to share. And writing is an important part of communication because writing reaches where we cannot reach personally. I'd like to move further by sharing a quotation by another famous essayist whose essays have been a reservoir of knowledge for generations since time immemorial, and that's Francis Bacon. I'll read out the quotation to you once and then we'll explain it, just like I did with the first quotation. Reading maketh a full man. Please notice the archaic usage of language, maketh. Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. In this quotation, Francis Bacon has said that reading is a man, makes a person who's ready to share, who's so full of knowledge, ideas, views, and opinions that he or she is ready to express them and share them with others. So, this brings us to the next step of the process of knowledge attainment, and that is conference or discussion or interactions with the others. Once we do that, once we have an interchange of ideas and opinions with the others, then we become ready. Then we become uh, ready for action, ready to produce results. And once we write down what we have learned through our reading and interactions with the others, we have completed our process of knowledge attainment. So, that is how important writing skills are. To move further, I would also like to share another quotation by Napoleon Hill, another eminent thinker. I'll read out the quote to you and then explain. That quote, in a way, the last quote, which I'm going to share today, in a way ties the entire concept of this session. So I have begun by introducing to you what writing skills are, why they are important to us, and how they affect or influence us, and then finally, what is the consequence of possessing good writing skills. I'll read out the quotation to you and then elaborate upon it. Napoleon Hill says, reduce your plan to writing. The moment you complete this, you will have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. So, in order to execute our plans, in order to materialize our aspirations, we need to write them down. This can also be viewed or understood as that clarity of thoughts come across by writing down, and the clarity readable or the clarity visible to the readers in the written word reflects upon or shows or depicts the clarity of thoughts of the writer. And when this kind of clarity is associated between the written words and the thoughts, between the actions and the thoughts, automatically a position of being the leader, the leadership position comes to rest with the person who has written clearly. That is the importance of writing skills. Having talked about the importance of writing skills, I want to share as to why writing skills are relevant and pertinent for engineers. Most of us would think that engineers should just crunch numbers throughout the day. They have important data to analyze, they have important things or products or devices to visualize, they have important machinery to build that will make the work of humankind easier, faster, and more efficient. They do not need to write, but that is a flaw in our thinking that needs to be corrected. I'd like to share with you a few surveys that have been conducted both nationally and internationally that stress and upon the need of writing skills in engineers and also bring out the problems that engineers might encounter, definitely encounter, when they are lacking in writing skills. The first survey that I'd like to share with you is that of a magazine article called Automation World that was written by J.R. Kolsch in 2011. He said that writing skill is a key to career for engineers. So gone are the days when engineers felt that they would be sitting in a corner just crunching numbers, analyzing data, trying to build a machinery, making drafts on the paper, and not sharing their ideas, opinions, their progress, their reports with the others. Because now is the age of instant information. Information travels with the speed of lightning and even faster because of the coming of the internet. So there is a very fast exchange of ideas and information happening. So if the engineers felt that they could wait for draftsmen, for writers, or their assistants to come and draft a report or draft an email to convey to the others as to what has been going on at their end, and then move further with the process, they are going to be shunted out of the whole procedure. They are going to be removed from the entire chain because they are in a way blocking and curtailing and reducing the speed of information travel. And information leads travel of information, faster travel of information leads to progress. There's another thing that came out in that article which he wrote. He said that leadership skills are developed, are portrayed by an engineer by possessing good writing skills. For example, they have studied a high level engineer who was also in a very high level, top level managing position in an organization. And she said that once their organization took up a global project, her writing, her communication through writing increased manyfold. So, sitting in her office in one part of the world, she had to write emails, share reports, technical reports, and other such things with her team, which were based either within the office, which was a large one, or across the globe in any remote part of the world. But this exchange had to be expedited so as to move the process faster, to save the company billions of dollars, and to earn large sums in revenues. That is why she had to engage in writing skills, and she even went on to do a course in um, engineering journalism, which helped and honed her writing skills even better and made her a better leader, a better manager at the top level, besides being an engineer. So now I want to, before I move further with another survey report, I want to share with you what are the writings. From this, it has come out that there are certain types of writings that engineers are required to do. So what are the writings that engineers usually are required to do? They are required to write technical reports. They're also required to write papers, academic papers that get published in magazines and journals, and these are subjected to peer review, and they are also reviewed by the editorial board of the prestigious magazines. Then engineers are required to write emails within the organization and outside the organization. In a way, when they are writing or communicating outside the organization, they become ambassadors or representatives of their own company. Then engineers are further required to write instruction manuals. When a user has to use a device or a machine developed by them, he or she should know the procedure, the process, and those steps are outlined by the engineer in the instruction manual. If that document is something which is filled with technical jargon, or something which has too many grammatical errors or errors of vocabulary, the user will not be able to use a very high tech device which may be very helpful otherwise. Furthermore, the engineers are required to fulfill certain administrative roles and responsibilities within their organizations, even in government sector or in the private sector. And these could be just like drafting the agenda of a meeting, noting down the minutes of a meeting, drafting a circular or a notice, drafting a newspaper communication, a communication or a write-up that has to go out to the newspapers regarding an event or a product that was developed. They have to they might have to write the speech or an introductory speech for the head of the company, the CEO of the company, who might not know anything about the project or the device that has been developed by the engineers. So these are the various kinds of writings that engineers have to do. So we cannot assume, this is a faulty assumption on our part, that engineers do not need to write and they can do away with writing skills and just be very well honed and very proficient in their technical skills only. There's another survey that I'd like to share with you and the results of it. All these surveys, all these documents are available online, and towards the end of the PowerPoint presentation, even in the handout notes that will be given along with this session, these references and links have been shared. So you can go through them in detail. Now, the next survey that I want to talk to you about is by American Society of Mechanical Engineers. It was conducted by American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and the topic of the survey was the income and salaries of engineers across America. They found that the incomes and salaries of engineers across America were not only influenced by their experience in the work field, but also by certain competencies and skill set in their portfolio. And out of these skill set came out skills like interpersonal skills, technical skills, interpersonal skills, leadership skills, communication skills. Communication skills were formed a very important part in determining the growth, the progress, the increment, and the increase in salary and incomes of an average engineer in America. And so is the case in India, because now the borders have dissipated. We have MNCs setting up their plants, their shops, their branches here within India. There's hardly a difference where one is working within India or abroad. So many of our engineers, so many of our students are also aspiring for jobs abroad. So they also need to be sensitized towards the requirement of the industry, not only within India but also abroad. And it came across during this ASME survey on incomes and salaries that engineers needed even from level 1 to level 8. So there were 8 different levels of engineering positions within the organization. These 8 different positions had some managerial responsibilities, and they required growing proficiency in communication skills, especially writing skills. So the level 1 engineer needed to draft emails, that was basic. They also needed to write a report, a technical report about the project, about their team's work. So, this was the basic requirement of a level 1 engineer, where a student passing out from a technical college, a technical institute, or a polytechnic would be absorbed immediately after completing his or her education. So, they not only be required to work on the shop floor, but they will have to write something, they will have to communicate something to their bosses within their team and sometimes even outside the organization. And it also came out in this survey that once an engineer reaches the level 8, where in top level management, then they are required to write important documents like negotiation of agreements, penning down agreements, expression of interest, conflict resolution documents, writing down public communication documents, interacting with the media, being the brand ambassador, the face of the organization or the project that they are holding, that the organization is wielding. For example, we had Steve Jobs introducing the Apple products to the world through various high profile media conferences. So his speech, his communication was readied by him. He had to improvise. Sometimes he had to improvise on the spot. So this is also expected of our engineers. So we cannot relegate writing skills to a very low position in our competencies, especially for engineers. I'd like to move further and talk about a BBC article that is very relevant in our day and time. It talks about online businesses and how online businesses are being adversely affected by writing skill errors. And this too, this survey was within the UK, and therein most of the employees or most of the engineers were native speakers of English. Yet they committed such mistakes that it costed millions of pounds to the companies. What happens is in online business, the interface with the client happens through the written word on the screen. Now, when a client or a customer visits our website, we have somewhere around 6 seconds. It has been found through research, only about 6 seconds to grasp their attention and to hold it there. If within those 6 seconds of spelling error or a semantic error, for example, often confuse words like there, instead of there has been used, and there is a grammatical error wherein tenses are confused or the subject and verb do not agree, then the viewers or the customers visiting the website get a sense of suspicion for the products and the company. Let's just take our own example. How do we recognize emails as phishing or spam? When we find that they have too ostentatious display of text, too many colors in them, many spelling mistakes, many grammatical errors, because we see them as traps for taking our money fraudulently. So that is what is conveyed to the customers, especially in online businesses, when there are writing skill errors, spelling mistakes. So this was found out in that article. I have shared the link to that article, which talks in detail as to what all problems were identified by these companies. And IT companies, online businesses are the norm of the day, especially for a country like India, where we are promoting startups. We know most of these startups have been concentrated in the IT sector. Most of the money that was made in recent time, the Silicon Valley is an IT startup hub. There's most money there. That's why most of our youngsters who have opted for the information technology course are hopping onto this bandwagon of making quick money, but through work, through sincere hard work. But these small errors, these small mistakes can cost them, can make or break their businesses, can make or break their lives in a way, because this is the first attempt that they will be taking towards self reliance. And for such small errors, they might just end up in a loss. To further go on to the same article and point out that within that, an industry expert in UK had pointed out that online businesses specifically were suffering huge losses because of the writing skills errors of the employees in Britain. So I think now I have highlighted enough as to what is the importance of writing skills for engineers, and what are the consequences when we do not pay attention to developing our writing skills. There was another survey that was conducted by a Swedish university, Uppsala University, and the report is available online, translated into English, and it's a very detailed report, and it talks about certain recommendations as to how mechanical engineers, as to how all engineers, not only mechanical, how other engineers during their course itself can be made proficient in writing skills. What are the expectations from them and how they can be made proficient? I am going to share and read out for you. They're also visible. This information is also visible on the slides. Read out to you as to what they felt were the requirements by the industry from students of engineering. So these are the recommendations, and I will elaborate upon them once I read out to you one by one. They said for the beginners or the first course students, the students should have the writing skills wherein they are able to identify different types of text in the field and describe their structure. They should be able to know whether it's an technical report, whether it's a paper which has been presented for publication or which is going to be presented, whether it is a draft for a procedure to develop a product or a device or a service by an engineer. They should be able to differentiate. So that means they should have exposure to reading such text and also having written such text. Only once we write do we understand and comprehend completely as to what we are reading. The next finding of this survey was that the beginners, The first course students should be able to write a text that reproduces information from other sources. So they should be able to paraphrase, combine, and a bit of abstraction of text should be possible for them. Not a grand scale abstraction, but once they have referred to different sources of information, they should be able to pick out in a logical manner, in a cohesive manner as to what should come first and what should come second, which is the lead argument, which is the evidence or data in support of this argument. This kind of writing skill should be available to the first year student of engineering. They further went on to say that the students should be able to write a text that is suitable for the intended reader. So they should not only write for their own self to communicate, spiced up with technical jargon, difficult data's numbers, but they should write it in a manner that it should be understood by a layman, by any reader. So that involves a high sensitization towards the readers and also high degree of writing skills employed in simplifying the technical data available with them. Usually, what happens is when engineers or engineering students are reading technical texts rather than interacting in technical language, they use mathematical formula. They forget to convert these difficult texts, these numbers, into sentences, wherein we see that even when we begin by in our fourth grade variable equations or linear equations, there is a formula that is converted into a question in the form of a text, and the students are required to understand the text and know which formula to apply to get the correct answer. So mathematical skills or engineering skills are not just restricted to knowing a formula, but also to know how to apply it, when to apply it, and for that we need to have basic reading and writing skills. I like to move further and share what all were the findings of this survey. And it said that the first year students, first course students, or the beginners, they should write a text that has a clear theme. Theme means that it sticks to a topic, it sticks to a main idea within the text, that it should have a clear theme. Their thoughts and ideas should not be scattered, should not be going around in all the directions, and that is how they come down on the paper. This is not what is required of engineers. Now, engineers are creative people of a different kind. They are creating things which lead to betterment of the quality of life of common man. So that means their imagination is easily stimulated, and they are engrossed in their